introduce the video with a coughing fit. Hey, Uncle Roddus back again. Video time. Been a lot happening actually. Got quite a bit to show. I bought some CDs. Now that's unusual. Been a while. I was down at Penny Lane a couple of weeks back, and I was curious to have a look through the New Zealand compilations in the CD department, because they're pretty cheap at the moment, and I found some pretty interesting ones. Yeah, so this one here, this is what's actually playing in the background. Robot's Dream of Electric Sheep. It's a fairly electronic-y type compilation, but it covers a lot of bases. A lot of more experimental and some really out there stuff, as well as kind of the usual kind of dancey, techno-y stuff. But yeah, gonna say more arty than just pure dancing stuff. So it's quite a bit of a different compilation. And I wasn't really familiar with much of what was on it. Wendy House was a band that was familiar to me, and they are really cool. They've got a very esoteric type track at the end, and the other one that really stood out was Hieronymus Bosch. I can't even describe them, and I'm definitely going to. I'm definitely looking out for some CDs from them. Green Eggs and Ham, a compilation of Hamilton music from, I think about, was it last decade or the decade before? Sometime in the 2000s. Some pretty cool stuff on here, particularly the first track I really like. Hollow Grinders was a name I was familiar with. Rest of them really had no idea of any of the bands. Most of them probably never released anything else. And then this one here, Need for a Crossing in New Zealand, Volume 1. Strange name. Never released a Volume 2 as far as I'm aware. Certainly couldn't find it. This is real sound art underground sort of stuff. Was familiar with a lot of the names on here, like Birchville Cat Motel. I have some records by them. Greg Malcolm, I've got some records from him. Pumice, of course. Peter Wright and Anthony Milton. All of those guys I have records by. So that's a nice compilation. So yeah, some really cool New Zealand compilations. So I'm going to keep an eye out for some more of those. In saying that, I went to Penny Lane today because I got an urgent call out into town to help someone out. And after I'd finished that, I popped into Penny Lane to have a look, and I'll talk about that later on. But yeah, I did have a look through the compilations. There was nothing today. Some new releases, New Zealand releases. Right, this is a real bit of a blind buy. Voodoo Blue, The Blessing Ghost. No idea what this was. It turned up on Flying Out, and so I grabbed it, as I do, blind buy. It is on this blue vinyl. I'm pretty sure it's kind of self-released. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to say about this one. It's shaping up to be pretty damn good, but the first listen was like, what am I listening to here? It's rocky, poppy, sort of, conventional type music, but yeah, interesting vocalist, pretty cool vocals, very deep voice. It's going to grow on me, I think, that one. Yeah, so Voodoo Blue. So like I say, self-released, just come out the last week. Probably in very limited edition copy, probably pressed here in Holiday Record. So there was a sale on at Flying Out, and so I picked up a couple of records. Now where the hell is the other one? There it is. So first one, a New Zealand one. This was a record store day release a few months back. Obviously they didn't sell any copies of it, or many copies of it, and I picked it up for $30 on sale. Ade, A-D-E, is the name of the artist, but it's actually Conan Moccasin. Excuse the rude cover. Conan and his father made this record together. His father apparently was in a band in the 70s called Autumn Stone. Well, I'm no idea of Autumn Stone. I couldn't find anything on Discogs. Maybe it didn't release anything anyway. So this just turned up today. And along with that turned up this one here, a reissue. I've also picked this up on sale. It's a bit of a blind buy too. This is William Onyeabor, however you say that. The album is Hypertension. This is a 1982 record, but it's been reissued on Lauka Bop in 2015, I believe. Not sure on this one. I had this in the side 1 before, but yeah, I don't know. It wasn't as Afro-funky as I thought it was going to be. I mean, William had this record out, kind of a compilation, I think, from a few years ago, of a whole lot of stuff, and I've seen it around the shops, and I was tempted to buy it a few times. I never did. I'm kind of regretting it now because it's sort of not around, but yeah, but wasn't that familiar with them, so it's a bit of a blind buy. I'll have to see if that one grows. Also, I'm flying out. I was trying to get some points up on flying out so that I could get some free records, and I did, and we'll get to those. But to get to those points, I actually spotted these and decided to pick them up. This Heat is a band that I had been familiar with in name, but had never actually heard anything, and was wondering why I hadn't got around to getting some of their music, because from all intents and purposes they sound like something I'd really get into. So this is a reissue, Repeat Metal, but it's a reissue of an original CD issue of some original recordings that were done way back in 1980 or somewhere around there. But I don't think they were ever released at the time. They got a CD release, 2006, and then this came out on 2018. So I've only actually played them once. This is pretty weird stuff. So basically there's two just sidelong tracks, 20 minutes and 23 minutes of this Heat noodling. So need to listen to that a bit more. So I'm not sure how that is, what that's like compared to the two actual records they did release back in the 1980s, early 80s, late 70s. And then this was another reissue, not a reissue per se perhaps, because I don't think it had come out and this music had been released until this record perhaps, or maybe it did come out on CD. This is another 2018 reissue. It's a collection of live tracks, again recorded way back in the early 80s. So this Heat live 1980-81, as you can see. Really haven't had a chance to play that one yet because been so many other bloody things happening and records coming in. So Bandcamp, that's the word I'm looking for. Bandcamp got this record here off their Bandcamp page. This is the second album out by Clear Path Ensemble, Solar Eclipse. This is actually released through Soundway. I don't remember who their first record came through now, but yeah, this is the second one. I had the first one. This is a New Zealand kind of band, but I guess they're probably based overseas now. I'm not sure whether this was recorded. Excuse me, it's getting late. I don't know. Anyway, so this is quite interesting. Electronic jazz, which seems to be a lot of that coming around now. I mean, I think I showed my last video, which again haven't posted yet, of course, was the New Comet Is Coming record, which is like techno jazz. That is a really fantastic record. Blew me away. So using the credits from the shop, and I seem to be missing. I already showed it. Yeah, using the credits from the shop, I picked up 3 records. I already showed you the first record, which was the Voodoo Blue. So yeah, that was one that I picked up, and then I picked up this, and these are all fairly new releases. I picked up the new Maxine Funk compilation. So Maxine's been around. She's a kind of a singer-song, folksy kind of, but alternative singer-songwriter from Dunedin way, and I believe she might be the partner of Alistair Galbraith. She's put out quite a bit of music over the years, and I hadn't never really got around to picking anything up, although I'd heard a bit of it, and wasn't sure whether I was going to get into her or not. And then I picked up her last LP, which was really quite cool. And then this one here just got put out. So this is a compilation of pretty much all of the singles, A-side, B-sides that she released, plus some compilation tracks and a few unreleased numbers. So yeah, I was familiar with some of the tracks off it. So yeah, that's cool. So I think that covers quite a lot of her stuff. There is like that album I got, and I think there is another album or 2 earlier, which are actually getting quite hard to get now. And then lastly, of the new releases, and like I say, the cashing in my points, I think. Kraus. This is the new Kraus album. I've shown Kraus before. Is it Paul Kraus? Pat Kraus, that's his name. So some tracks here recorded January 20 to January 21. So basically, a lot of the stuff was during the lockdown pandemic of the first lockdowns we had in 2020. This is really, really good. This might be his best record yet. He's very prolific. He has a lot of music out on Bandcamp and cassettes and that, but only probably about 3 to 4 on LP. I believe I've got 3 of them, or maybe 4 of them, and maybe one that I haven't got. Side 1 of this is pure German electronic motoric 70s style music. Absolutely, just, really good, really well done. Side 2 is a little bit more of the same, but there's also a bunch of really more of weirder stuff that he does in style of some of the other ones I'm familiar with. This is quite a high fidelity recording for him, actually. It's a lot of his other records, certainly some of the ones I've heard, are pretty low fidelity, even though they're really good. He's very creative with his music, and there's a lot happening in his stuff, but yeah, really impressed. Okay, this could be a reasonably long video. During last week I pulled out a few CDs, and my Beatles CDs, and I was just having a bit of a listen to some Beatles because I hadn't heard any for ages, and I just was getting a hankering to play some Beatles. And I was sitting there and I played through about 2/3 of my Beatles collection, which is, maybe not 2/3 of it, but 2/3 of the main LPs that they put out. I do have their anthology collection on CD, plus a few other bits and pieces, compilations, etc. Excuse me, but I played through most of the albums, and I decided that the CDs sound alright, but I really, the Beatles really should be listened to on vinyl. And there's all the debate too that's been going around about this analog and digital stuff, and all the people are jumping up and down about MoFis and how a lot of their records supposedly were analog, but they were sourced from digital sources. A lot of analog recorded music has been digitalized because you can't just keep copying off the tapes. You're going to destroy them in the end. So it makes sense to do that. But I was thinking, if I really want to listen to the Beatles, why not do it on vinyl? And so in Penny Lane today, I decided to have a look through the collection, and they have, been reasonably full of Beatles stuff, which is fair enough. I mean, they're the biggest band ever in the planet. I mean, you'd think there should be plenty of records around, but secondhand Beatles records, the further back you go, the more likely they're going to be absolutely trashed, even though they sold in the millions. A lot of the fans didn't really know how to look after their records and that. But I mean, there's plenty of good copies floating around, no doubt. So I was looking on Discogs and how many records were in fair condition or good condition, which is not good to me. I wouldn't touch them. So Peter Lane had a few, and I picked some up. So what I've decided to do is I want to pick up, if I can, in reasonable condition. Now, I'm not going to spend big dollars on these. Now, on the counter they have a bin of collectibles, and I went through that bin today because most of them are, there's just in case something I really needed to buy turned up, and they had 3 or 4 Beatles records in there, or maybe more actually. I'm guessing mostly original New Zealand pressings, and they were over $100 each. So I'm assuming that was because they were in pristine condition. I'm about to show you some Beatles records that I bought today. Not what I call in pristine condition, but in good condition and very playable condition. I've cleaned them and I've played half of them, and they sound really good. And there is some crackle, but I mean, shit, they're 55, 60, 55 plus year old records. So I picked this one up. So, what I want to do is pick up the New Zealand releases, the original as I can get. I'm not worried about first pressings, second pressings. I just want to get as close to the originals as I can. And this here blue Parlophone label. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I am under the belief that this is a unique New Zealand version of the Parlophone label on the records. I mean, I think out of the UK is, and later on the Parlophone ones here were in the black with the black with the white writing or whatever. But these blue ones. So I first came across this label when I bought a copy of Sgt. Pepper off a local fella here. I'd been doing some work for. He had a box record he showed me, and I grabbed a couple of them. He had Sgt. Pepper's, and that is, as far as I can tell, an original Sgt. Pepper first issue in New Zealand, or first pressing or second pressing, round about there. People go on about originals and the first pressings. Well, who knows? Maybe all those ones in the shop today were all first pressings, and this isn't. But this is a mono copy of The Hard Day's Night. Of course, I think all the earliest Beatles records were all recorded as mono. I'm not sure when they went stereo, but there are mono and stereo copies all over the place. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to go back and I want to pick up all of the Beatles albums that were released in New Zealand. All their main LPs. They were all released in New Zealand. I want to get them all with the blue Parlophone label, and I'd like to actually get them on mono and stereo, so I'll get a copy of each. So, they're around. Just a matter of finding a good, reasonably clean copy. They don't have to be perfect. I played this one earlier tonight after I cleaned it, and it sounded really good. There wasn't, excessive noise. I looked at the vinyl in the shop and it looked pretty clean. I cleaned it here when I got home, and it's no worse than the Sgt. Pepper's version, which I cleaned up a long time ago, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. So I picked up that one. I picked up this one, but this one isn't an original one. This is actually a stereo reissue on the in New Zealand, pressed in New Zealand, made in New Zealand, but it's on the Apple label. So I think this is from around about 69. So I think around about 1969, all of the Beatles records appeared, or most of the ones I've seen, appear to have got a reissue on the Apple label in New Zealand, and they were printed here. So I don't mind picking up the Apple ones as well. I just want to get the ones the earliest, pretty early ones, the ones that haven't been remastered and digitalized and then repressed onto vinyl. I just want the original analog copies, and I mean this is pretty close to that. You know, before they started remastering things in the 80s and, you know, whatever they used to do. So yeah, I picked up. So I did pretty well today, and like I say, these are all in good condition. And this is a stereo version of the Help LP. As you can see, in New Zealand, we have these flip back covers where the covers were glued around on the outside. So that's a pretty good sign that it's an original. I think they did the flip covers like that until around about 1970. Again, this one's one of the ones on the blue Parlophone label, so that's really cool. So what did I say? This was a stereo version, so I'll be on the lookout for a mono version of this too. The cover's a wee bit tatty along the bottom, but apart from that, you know, I haven't actually played this one yet. You know, they're still collecting. They're still getting pretty good pricings on these. You know, not three figures, but you know, halfway there. What else did we pick up today? So there were the first two albums there as well, but my budget just wasn't stretching to that far, and they're not particularly my most favourite ones. The only ones they didn't have were, well, actually, did they have Sgt. Pepper there today? Don't know because I've already got it. They didn't have the White Album, which is probably good because I would have bought it, and I really was running out of money. So this one here is Rubber Soul, and again New Zealand pressing. Now this one's interesting. I'm not sure if I could find this on Discogs because we have the Apple label, which suggests that this is 1969 reissue. On Discogs it shows the Apple label 1969 reissue, but it shows it with a flip back cover. This doesn't have a flip back cover, so I'm a little bit lost on that one, unless they came out with the flip back cover for a while and then they stopped it, because like I say 1969 1970 was around about the time that they stopped making flip back covers, I believe. So that's cool. I will keep an eye out for a blue Parlophone label for this in mono and stereo. Nearly there, couple to go. Someone I know on Facebook was a bit pissed off that I picked up a copy of this today. He just picked up the new reissue, which he said sounds alright, but he said the pressing wasn't that great. So this is a mono version of Revolver, and again it is on the blue Parlophone. There we go. So this is pretty close to being original if it isn't original. Maybe it's a repress. I wouldn't say a reissue. So Revolver's fantastic. So Revolver and Rubber Soul, they are, you know, again, this is when the Beatles really hit their stride. This one and this one. I mean, they are just utterly fantastic. And the last one I picked up today, and it's not a New Zealand press actually, but it was the only copy they had. They had a box set version of this, but it was $100. But I wasn't really that interested in that. This is a UK Apple. I'm guessing it's a repress from 1970. From what I could figure out on Discogs. It's very difficult on Discogs because there are so fucking many. 700 plus versions of Beatles albums, some of them, you know. So so this has got the Apple label, but this is actually a UK. Played this one tonight. The vinyl is pristine, you know, really good. Sounds really good. You know, these guys were just really, I love this record. I love it. I love all the old ones. Abbey Road, I like this the best of the last ones. I like it more than I like the White Album, but I do like this one too a lot. So that is my lot for at the moment. I've still got plenty more coming in the post, pre-orders and all that stuff. Yeah, so they keep on coming, and I am running out of space to keep them all. So yeah, don't know what I'm going to do about that. Right, catch you next time.